And now the idea of a Walking Dead reboot has actually been thrown around quite a bit by the community, and also with the recent leaks and rumors of HBO actually, rebooting The Walking Dead. I thought it'd be fun to actually discuss and theorize what they could do different. And of course, this video is not confirming that a Walking Dead reboot is happening. This is just all theories, and also I'm just making this video for fun. So yeah, this is my video about how they could actually do The Walking Dead differently, and how they could keep the idea fresh, and also how could they do it in a way where it could attract new viewers, and also keeping the formula and the story fresh for returning viewers. So please stay tuned. And now, before we actually get into the video, I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And of course, thank you all for 2,607 subscribers. I really, really appreciate it in this growth, and this just everything that this channel has become today is all because of you guys. And I just want to take a moment and say thank you to all of you. And we have a goal in mind for 5,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to be part of that journey to 5,000 subscribers, please like, share, and subscribe. And the next milestone is, of course, 3,000 subscribers. So if you guys want to be part of that journey, please subscribe and enjoy the video. Thank you. And now this idea of a Walking Dead reboot and just the leak in general, I've made a video about it on my channel. It will be in the card up on the top right. And of course, when it comes to just talking about a Walking Dead reboot, I've pointed this out in the video where I actually do talk about the reboot leak. And that's if they actually go very comic accurate, and I mean panel for panel with the comics. And that would just be a very easy way for them to actually reboot The Walking Dead. But we already know the story, we already know all the characters, and it's just that the comics and the show, the AMC Walking Dead show, the differences between those two are drastic, but yet again they are very minor. Some moments are panel for panel from the comics, and some moments are just totally different, and some characters actually do survive longer than others and compared to the comics and stuff like that. So yeah, I just want to discuss just a total change, something totally different from the show, something totally different from the comics, but also keeping those same characters, because The Walking Dead is really iconic and the characters are very, very iconic as well. So it just won't work well for them if they actually do end up rebooting The Walking Dead but just having totally different characters. But what they could do is do a mix and match of the comics and the TV show, and also just put their own spin on top of it, where they let other characters take more of the spotlight. Because again, both the show and the comics are very, very iconic. The show is more of its own thing now, right? And of course with the spin-offs and all of that, it just shows how iconic the show is and how iconic the characters are. So I don't see them actually rebooting The Walking Dead and not having those same characters, because they want to keep a little bit of an essence of the show and also the comics as well. So one way I could see them doing this is that just giving the characters totally different character arcs, and also just killing off some characters here and there in the start, or killing off some characters here and there towards the end, or just not killing them whatsoever. Because there are a lot of characters that I always think that what if they actually survived, and both in the show and the comics, some characters just don't survive outright, right? So we don't know what they will do in the Commonwealth or during the Whisperer arc, for example, like Glenn and Abraham, right? Their arcs would have been really interesting to see, and also with the whole time jump that they had, the change and the difference that these characters would have would be very cool to see. And now a very unique way that they could actually start this reboot off, in a very unique way, in a very fresh way, is that if they change Rick and Shane's story. And what I mean by that is that in the start, when they're having that standoff with those criminals, of course before the apocalypse, before the fall, instead of Rick getting shot, it's actually Shane that gets shot, and Shane is the one to end up in the hospital in a coma. Now this is a huge difference, and I know that moment right there is a huge moment for Rick's character as well, because he doesn't know what's going on, and he just comes out very unexpected. He's like, what's going on? And of course seeing all the walkers and stuff like that, whereas Shane, he has more experience. He saw everything go down with his own eyes. Now here we could actually assume that Shane's perspective of the apocalypse will change drastically. Now the question here is that, will Rick's perspective change? Will Rick become into Shane, basically? That is very difficult to say, but I have a feeling that because Rick has his family, he has Carl, Lori, and he's just a much different person with a different mentality than Shane. I think that with this change right here, Rick and Shane will have a much better relationship because, like, of course, Shane doesn't have, like, basically a moment to go crazy, right? Because, like, again, like, one of the reasons why he did go crazy is because he got so attached to Lori and Carl, he didn't want Rick to come in the way. But if Rick is still with Lori and Carl, and it's just everything's totally normal, but Shane is the one in the hospital, I think that Shane wouldn't want to kill Rick, and Rick wouldn't be forced to kill Shane, and then we have both of them survive. Now, my original idea here was that, if Rick died and Shane stayed alive, but again, The Walking Dead is basically Rick Grimes' show, right? And it's Rick Grimes' series. So, like, taking him out is very odd and very weird, and it wouldn't just feel like The Walking Dead. So, I thought that maybe if you kept both Shane and Rick alive, it would be a very interesting, like, way to actually tell the story of The Walking Dead. And now, of course, with Rick and Shane both staying alive, I think their relationship will actually grow more and they'll become more like brothers, like how it was in season 1, but before, like, of course, Shane did betray Rick. But I think that if that were to happen, Daryl and Abraham and just all these other characters who always had Rick's back in the show would be pushed to the sidelines. But of course, Rick and Shane would be a very, very good duo, and that wasn't explored much in The Walking Dead. They did show a lot of moments, right? These two were like brothers, but I think that if they were to keep Shane alive and make both of them work together, I think that we'll have a lot of amazing moments like that. But a lot of other characters would be pushed to the sidelines because Shane and Rick would be very dependent on each other. And also, I could see them actually making the governor more ruthless and making him a bigger problem. I think that in the show, the governor, he was ruthless, he was a big problem for the group, he did stay for quite a bit, but he wasn't as ruthless as he was in the comics. And in the comics, the governor was way darker and he was just a psychopath, even though in the show he was a psychopath, but in the comics he just seems more like a psychopath. They could actually go fully comic accurate governor, or they could just do something totally different and they could make the governor good, right? They could have this whole moment of we could all live together, right? Where Rick is trying to convince the governor that he wants to, like they could all live together, they could all live in peace. And then instead of him decapitating Herschel, or as in the comics, he decapitates Tyrese, he could just stand down and just be like, oh yeah, like I was wrong. And, we could live together, we could actually do it. And now that we're on the topic of villains, I think I should get into Negan briefly. And of course, Negan's lineup is insanely iconic. And that is one of the most iconic moments in TV history. And I don't think they're going to be changing that in any way. Like, the lineup in general, they wouldn't change that. I think that would be a very stupid decision for them to actually make. Maybe they could actually change up, like, who's in that lineup, right? Because if Shane is going to be alive, and maybe even if the governor turns good, and if the governor actually does join with them, the governor and Shane could easily be in that lineup, and those two could be chosen, right? And that'd be a nice way for them to actually, keep the story fresh, to keep us in suspense, because of course in the comics and in the show as well, Glenn died. Like, if they do Glenn a third time, it's not going to be original, it's going to be like, as Glenn's dead, right? What a surprise. But if they go for Shane or the governor, right, by that time they would become into likable characters. By that time they will be kind of fan favorite characters if they do it right. That could still have a very big impact on, their, the lineup, right? The lineup could still have a very big impact, because if Negan ends up killing the governor or Shane. And this would, of course, have a big impact on Rick's character development, because you could imagine that he did go for vengeance after Negan killed Glenn and Abraham, two people that were very close to him. You could just imagine how insane Rick would go if he actually ended up killing Shane. And I think he would have almost the same reaction as to when Carl died. Not the same reaction, because of course Carl is his son at the end of the day. But, if if Negan actually does end up killing Shane, who is like a brother to Rick, I think Rick would go into season 8 mode or even season 5 mode instantly. He wouldn't like take Negan's authority. He would fight right away, and I think that they would do it like the comics, where as in the show, like Rick, he basically gave up, but in the comics, Rick, he actually was coming up with the plan on the inside in secret with Andrea to actually take down Negan. And like Rick and Andrea, they actually did try getting a shot at Negan when he was at Alexandria taking his offering, but then of course they missed. Like, they could do a mix and match of that sort of thing and just have like big moments like these and just total changes in character arcs and character developments to actually make it more fresh and interesting. And now another thing I want to talk about was the CRM, and I don't think that the CRM is going to show up in this reboot, and that's because the CRM seems like a very AMC thing, right? AMC is going to keep that arc to themselves. AMC is going to keep those characters to themselves because those are original characters. And of course, like, we don't want to see the whole CRM arc again. It already took long enough, and we're still not like even scratching the surface of it, so seeing it again is going to be a little redundant. They could either come up with a new arc, or they could just keep the story grounded, right? They could just keep the whole story of just them surviving and just have a really, really grounded story with like fleshed out characters. I mean, of course, The Walking Dead, like, and its characters are very fleshed out, right? And then these are one of the most iconic characters on TV and also in media, but sometimes it is a hit or miss there. And also, like, sometimes they don't know when they're going way too out there, especially Fear the Walking Dead. That's a whole different thing. But the whole CRM is very out there for the apocalypse and just helicopters and stuff like that. But if they just keep it as at like, oh yeah, just like different communities like kind of at war with each other for supplies, and also on top of that just them trying to survive, I think that they could still make a really good Walking Dead story with these characters and keep it fresh, but also keep it grounded as well. And now that's it for today's video. I'd like to ask you all to like, share, and subscribe. And again, thank you guys so much for the growth. Thank you guys so much for the support. I really, really appreciate it. And I have a lot of other ideas for a potential Walking Dead reboot, right? And this is just scratching the surface. I really want to make more videos on this topic because I find it really, really interesting, and I've actually kept out some ideas for just in case of a future video, like a part 2 to this video. So if you guys want to see something like that, please like, share, and subscribe, and also comment down what you guys would like to see, and also post down your own ideas. I would love to hear them, right? We could all build like a whole theory together, or just like speculate or just discuss for fun what a potential Walking Dead reboot could be. But yeah, other than that, thank you guys so much for watching.